Hey, Carmen,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's a pleasure to meet you again. I'm fine.
Yes.
Carmen, today's discussion will be about the Refugee Hotel, and I will be starting with a quote which strikes me, and I use it as my bio in one of my social media accounts.
Mhm.
I will read that quotation. It says, "It takes courage to remember, and it takes courage to forget, and it may take a hero to do both." So this can also summarize all of the events in the Refugee Hotel. And I will let you start from the beginning. Why this play, and why in that time you wrote it? Please start, Carmen.
Sure. Okay. So I started, I wrote Chile con Carne
Yes.
in 1995, and some of the characters, including the character of Manuelita in Chile con Carne,
Mhm.
are in the refugee hotel.
Yes.
So when I was writing Chile con Carne, I always thought, well, it would be great to write a play, like a multi-character play, where we see some of these characters on stage in front of us. Then two things happened.
Mhm.
Before Chile con Carne was able to, right before Chile con Carne premiered in
Yes.
1995, a few months before the premiere, my uncle, who was like a father to me,
Yes.
we lived together in the same house. He's definitely one of the people that raised me. And he was the first Chilean refugee to arrive in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
He drank himself to death at the age of 55. So he died of alcoholism
Yeah.
in 1995, right before Chile con Carne was staged. So he never got to see it. So that happened in 1995.
Yes.
And then in 1998, Pinochet was arrested in England and
Mm-hmm.
by Interpol
Mm-hmm.
and charged with crimes against humanity.
Yes.
And he was to be extradited to Spain, where a trial would happen. And that never happened in the end. But when he was arrested, it was a huge moment
Mm-hmm.
in Chile and for Chilean exiles living everywhere else in the world.
Yes.
So what happened after his arrest in Vancouver, and this happened everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
is that spontaneously the Chilean community started to gather.
Yes.
And what would happen at these gatherings is that for the first time, ex-political prisoners, people who had been tortured, stood up and publicly spoke about everything that had happened to them.
Freely, without fear of being persecuted.
And also, this is in Vancouver, but also finally being able to share openly what
Mm-hmm.
happened to them, not because of fear of being persecuted, but because it's very hard to do that emotionally and psychically. So I was present for many of those gatherings where, for the first time, people like my uncle, right,
Mm-hmm.
got up and spoke to the whole community and said, this is what happened to me. This is what I went through. Stories that had never been told publicly, and in many cases, not even privately, to their own families, just because it was so painful to share those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. And one of the reasons, amongst many others, is that it was always kind of considered individualistic
Yes.
to talk about yourself in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those two things happened. My uncle drank himself to death, which had a profound effect on me. And then Pinochet was arrested, which also had a profound effect on me and on my community. And
Yes.
so those two events are what
The reasons.
got me got me writing the play, The Refugee Hotel.
I see.
And of course, the main character, Fat Jorge, in The Refugee Hotel is based on my uncle. Like, it's not my uncle, but it's based on him. So that's how it all came to be. And you know, the theme of that play, like the themes of many of my plays, is exile.
Yes.
Which is a very different experience than immigration. So I really wanted to put that front and center. And something that I've always been interested in all of, is that true? Well, I won't say all, in many of my plays.
Yes.
Is how do we put extreme violence on stage? How do we do that, right? Because I don't believe in shying away from it. You know, but how do we do it without it being morbid, without it being shock value, without it being, you know, trauma porn? How do we do that? And so, you know, there's been a lot of talk ever since the play was written, like 20 years ago, about that monologue that Condor Passes has, right? That monologue when he first comes into the hotel and he just says everything that was done to him, right? When he says that monologue, like
this
nails
was the struggle. He wasn't able to speak. As of speaking is the outlet of everything, of getting rid of his trauma.
Well, and also like, we're not seeing any of it. We're just hearing about it. Like, I'm just thinking of,
sorry, whom?
like what Condor Passes, right? When he
Condor
arrived.
Passes, who is Manuel.
Yes. So
because you have a second name for 3 of the characters in this play.
Yeah. So in Act 1, he's Manuel, and in Act 2, he's Condor Passes. So when he's still Manuel, he comes in and he speaks everything that was done to him in the concentration camp, right? Like he says, nails pulled out, raped by men, raped by dogs. He speaks horrific things that were done to him. But the thing is that I spent a long time trying to figure out how to put that on stage. So it would be morbid and unnecessary to see it, to see him being tortured. I don't think that's necessary. It would be disempowering to him if other people spoke about what was done to him. Right. So I think it's an empowering thing to have him speak it.
Right.
And there's a reason why he's speaking it. He's not just speaking it just because, right? He's telling the doctor, right? He's telling the doctor.
As an act of healing. This is part of his healing.
Yeah, but in that moment in the play, he's actually doing it for a very specific reason, which he's telling the doctor, right? The doctor is there doing the physical on him.
Yes.
And he's speaking those words out so that we can all hear them, right?
Exactly.
But the purpose of it is so that the doctor knows, you know, and then we can conclude, right, that was a healing moment for him.
Exactly.
Yeah. So those are some things that come to mind when you ask me about how this play came to be. Yeah.
Yes. Very nice. Carmen, and Manuel, is he the same of the one in a land called, I don't remember, the young guy who plays the guitar?
No. I mean, there's an echo there, right? But no, it's a different time, you know, like in a land called I Don't Remember takes place in 1986.
Yes, and they were going to Argentina.
Yeah, and you know, Refugee Hotel takes place in 1974. Yeah, so they're different characters. Yeah.
Only similarity of a name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does that related to Manuel only, that quote? I mean, it is related to all of the characters. It takes courage to remember, it takes courage to forget. It may take a hero to do both. To which of the characters do you see that this quote is fitting most?
Well, I think they're all trying, right? They're all trying to find that balance.
Yes.
You know, Manuelita as an adult is the holder of the memories, and she's responsible for those memories and for keeping that story alive. You know, Fat Jorge lives in memory, and it kills him. Flaca, I think, is able to find the balance between those two
Yes,
things.
she is like the strongest one who is
Yes.
taking care of everything and trying to encourage Fat George to speak out his agony, what he has been suffering, but he was not able to say a word.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was too painful. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And
Well, and then there's the character of Joselito, who goes to the other extreme, you know, of simply denying and pathologizing, right? Calling them crazy, right? Pathologizing his entire community and his own family in order to survive. Like he just goes the other extreme, like forget, 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 forget. You know, deny, 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 deny.
yes.
Yeah.
And what about Manuelita, who is now in her 30s?
Yeah, I think that she's finding that balance as well, right? I think she sees herself as you know, the storyteller, and that it's her job to hold these stories and to tell them. Yeah, you know, and then there's the character of Cakehead, right? Who
Yes,
who
Isabella.
also, yeah, who also finds the balance, I think, like Flaca does. Like she, the things that she bakes in her bakery are the works of art, you know, of memory, of remembering everything that happened, everything that they went through.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just your voice was just a little bit broken because today's internet is so bad. I
Oh,
didn't hear about the part of her making bakery what? Standing for
oh,
something?
yeah, we
Yeah.
hear in the last monologue that Cakehead has a bakery,
Yes.
and that she makes like she bakes like little houses with scenarios that happened in the refugee hotel.
Yes.
So she's also a memory keeper.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this reminds me of something so important, and I always wanted to ask you about it. It is we have said earlier that dance is a very important aspect for those characters as a kind of heritage that they want to perceive, and not as an idea of romanticizing the past, but to solidify the present. And dancing is important, and always there is dancing, especially salsa or cuica dancing. Then we have in the refugee hotel in the very beginning, maybe in the epilogue and also in the prologue. And I do not actually recall where, in which events, that cuica dancer who is just like a soul, just like a ghost, but in the positive meaning, he appears and he is invisible to anyone but to the father, Fat George. So
Yes.
just like Cedar Tree, we have now that character. What is the significance of his appearance recurrently?
Yeah, he can signify and symbolize many things to different people. You know, so he can be Chile itself, like he can symbolize the actual country of Chile. He can also symbolize the dictatorship. He can symbolize memory. He can symbolize, you know, Fat Jorge's, you know, the place that he goes to, like it's his demons, right? He can also symbolize Fat Jorge's demons, right? So he can symbolize many things.
Yes.
You know, in many indigenous cultures here in Canada, there is this character called Trickster.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of indigenous people here in Canada who are familiar with the play, who really just call him a trickster. And a trickster is basically, he can be anything, right? He can be a force of good, a force of bad, everything in between. He can be a messenger who's come to tell you something or to force you to look at something that you don't want to look at.
Yes.
So he's not just one thing, but definitely it was, I chose to make him visible only to
Mhm.
Fat Hood, right? Who's,
And this is what I am really asking you about. Why only this character? Because this character has so many difficulties among others.
because he is living, he is still really stuck in the trauma,
Yes.
and he is self-medicating with alcohol.
Mhm.
So the fact that he is self-medicating with alcohol already puts him in an altered state.
Mhm.
You know, and some people, you know, some people refer to alcohol as a spirit, you know, so he's in this altered state, imbibing this spirit, you know, and so this
Therefore, he might be
force,
seeing things that others cannot see.
he
That's
knows that, I think he knows that others can't see the Wicca dancer. He knows that it's only a vision that he can see. Yeah.
Mhm. But still, it is a very important aspect to all of the characters, and for the audience, it's a very strong message that it's like the Chilean soul hasn't left them, always with
Yeah. Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Mhm. Good.
Mhm.
And let's go back to Flaka. Her character, her sufferings in jail, and also she is like, as you have just said, giving or making some kind of balance between being a rebellious, being in revolutionary cause, and also being a mother. So how do you see that balance? Because the family commitment is something, and also their oath and their commitment to the revolution, and they are not allowed to speak anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's her big dilemma, right? Like, how do you find the balance between being a mother and a revolutionary? And I don't know that anybody has ever found that balance. I think that it's elusive and it's difficult, and
Mhm.
you know, your children will resent you
Yeah.
for putting the revolution first,
Yeah,
and the revolution will resent you for putting your children first, right? So there's no winning
the
for a
most
woman.
difficult position a
Yeah,
woman can face
yeah,
and
there's
go
no
through.
winning. There's no winning for her, right?
Exactly.
Like, men can be revolutionaries and they will be regarded as heroes.
Exactly.
And
But a
nobody will
woman
ask them, well,
might
what
be
about your
blamed,
children, right? Yeah,
might be also blamed for that,
yeah,
as you have said.
men, people will not ask the men, oh, but what about your kids? Were you there for them?
Mhm.
But people will ask the women revolutionaries that, you know?
Yes,
So Flava's in a very difficult position, and she's doing the best she can.
she is. Yes.
And I'm sure that she has a lot of feelings
Mhm.
of guilt, you know, about the fact that her revolutionary activity led
Mhm.
her to be arrested and expelled from the country, and what all of that has meant for her children. You know, and we hear a bit from Joselito, right? We hear Joselito's thoughts and feelings about it, you know.
Yes,
She's a mother, so she knows her children, like she knows that he's feeling this way. So she's in a impossible situation. And I don't think there's anybody on the planet who would be able, any woman on the planet who would be able to find the balance, you know, between
so
being a
difficult.
mother and being a revolutionary. Yeah.
Exactly. And she was every now and then being asked, especially by her husband. And once they start a dialogue, and always their dialogues either interrupted or not finished.
Yes.
There is always that kind of, lack of communication. I will be also uh, asking you about it in another character. So he was asking her that, have you thought of us? Have you thought of our children? What if you have died? Would they give us your dead body? This was one of the most remarkable scenes that I have noticed. It was difficult answer for her because, and also she tries to like to let him pour out things and try to speak, because always he pukes and sees nightmares and remember bad memories where he was suffering and being in jail and exposing all of these things. So it's like it's a balance in the matter of agony and pain. It is balanced, their duties. But I agree with you, Flaka has the most difficult part because she is a mother.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, she has to answer, you know, he's asking her a very difficult question, right?
Yes.
What would you have done if you'd been murdered? What about
Yeah.
your kids, right? What about us, right?
Mhm.
And again, it's an impossible situation for her.
It is, yes.
Yeah, for a woman like her, right? And as we know, there are millions of women like her in the world, you know.
Mhm.
They just don't appear in plays very often, right? So,
Mhm. And she
yeah,
lost something. She that she lost part of her body, and this is very painful. And
yeah.
it is like part of your body is like part of your identity. Let's go back to Joselito, whom I see that like whose character is full of freedom or something like that, rebellious soul. How do you see Joselito, and is he standing for another character, real character?
Yeah, I think Joselito represents a demographic, you know, of the children that grew up in exile in
Yes.
the Chilean communities, and certainly in Vancouver that I know of, right?
Yes.
There were definitely some kids that were like him, you know, and that's why I thought it was super, super, super important to put that kid, you know, that archetype
As a
in the
model.
play.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a very important and strong voice coming from a child,
Mhm.
you know.
He is, yes. He's asking a
And
lot, and he's trying to discover a lot of things that maybe Manuelita, who is older than him, um, kept silent or not having that curiosity that he has.
yeah, and Manuelita just feels so loyal, right, to her parents. She's so
Accepting things and
loyal.
listening.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, she's so loyal to them. And he's not. He's just looking for a way out. Like he's just counting his days. Like the second I can get out of here, you know,
Mhm.
the second I turn, you know, in North America, it would be, you know, the second I turn 18, I am out of here and I am never looking back. Like that's where he's at when we meet
Mhm.
him in the play. Yeah,
So
and
is he like, let's say, standing for people who are ready to assimilate their culture and acquiring totally a new one and forgetting about the old one? Let's
yeah,
imagine that he is an old man and he's an adult. What would his character would be?
I think he would be like if he was my age, I'm going to be 55.
Mhm.
He would be, and you know, he would have arrived here as a young child, and he had stayed on that track. He would
Yeah.
have changed his name to an English name, which a
Mhm.
lot of people did, right? Like he would no longer be called Joselito, he'd be called Joseph or Joe. And he would have figured out a way to make his last name sound English. And he would have married a white person.
Mhm. Yes,
And he
continue
would have,
imagining. This is so
yeah,
crucial.
just completely erased his identity and his root.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
what I have noticed. That's why I
yeah,
asked you about him. Because in fact, this is not so far from reality. We have people who are only like imprisoned in the past. We have people who assimilate, just like the future vision or image of Joselito. And we have what we are encouraging, people who are capable to make that balance and trying to accept wherever they are, only accept his inner self,
mhm,
no matter where or wherever you are, or what are you doing, or what people might have picture of you, your color, your race, the barriers that you are facing, especially the barrier of language.
Yeah.
Uh,
He would probably no longer speak Spanish either.
I see. I must
Probably. Yeah.
reconsider the text and see his speech. And also there is an event also related to Joselito, where he is the only one who discussed the appearance of the Martins or something from space. Maybe
Oh,
in
yeah.
5, I stopped at that scene and trying to link it only to Joselito because it like responds to his ideas.
Yeah. So, I mean, Joselito is very starry-eyed and very impressed with North America, right? With the TV, with the hotel, with this TV show, you know, like this Martian TV show that kind of represents the quote unquote the future, right? So everything that everybody else is going, what is this, right? He's actually going, I love it, I love it, I love it, right? He can't wait to assimilate completely. and to basically become a consumer, right? Which is,
Yes.
I mean, citizens in North America, I know this is around the world, but I'll talk about North America for a sec. What defines a good citizen in North America,
Yes.
what we're told in North America, what we're told makes a good citizen is a consumer, a person who's constantly consuming, who's constantly shopping and consuming and changing whatever, buying new fashions and even buying whole new identities, right? So he's very much a consumer. Like, he can't wait to be a consumer. Like, he notices the cars, he notices the TV, he notices that they're in a hotel. Look at this cool TV show. He's like way into the future. He just can't wait to have money to be able to be a consumer. Yeah.
And this brings worries to his father.
Sorry, say that again.
This brings some kind of worries to his father. The father is not at rest with this thing. He always tries to approve to him that this will spoil you. This is capitalism. I recurrently noticed that there is like a criticism against capitalism, right? Because it's one of the most aspects that affected people's economics and way of everyday life and their standards of living ultimately.
Yeah, and especially since they are coming from a socialist society, right, that has just been violently overthrown in order to install a neoliberal, in order to install a neoliberal economic model.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why they are not in reconcile with capitalism and all its aspects and its bad effects. And we agree on that. Okay, Carmen, let's go back to the character of one of the chickens, right? Who also appears, and we have him along with Manuelita of Chil con Carne, who has a beloved, and he is betrayed, and he is shocked. So tell me about this character, Juan.
Because so he's a character.
He is more concentrated than in Chil con Carne.
Yeah, so he kind of represents like a super working class character, right? Who's not necessarily as politically engaged as everybody else, right? Like he's got like a real kind of relationship problem, right? Right, which is, like you say, that he has been betrayed.
Yes.
And
he is so loyal, by the way. He's so loyal, and he was just waiting for, I think she is
Chueca, yeah.
The CH, yes, Chueca. And he was eager from the very beginning. I just have
Oh,
We have only 9. That moment makes
oh
me
yes,
so
9. Okay.
sad. He was waiting for Trika to come and to see the things that he is seeing, and he was eager. Carmen, I don't know if you are seeing me.
Yeah, I can see you and I can hear you.
It seems that I'm losing connection. No,
Oh,
I'm back again.
okay, yeah, I can see you and I can hear you.
Sorry for this uncontrollable issue,
Oh, that's okay.
because my Zoom demands some kind of updating and my laptop does not respond anyway.
Oh no, okay.
Hopefully we'll finish peacefully. And he was eager that she comes and see the new things that he admires, and telling Manolita that someday Trika will come, and always trying to imagine her coming. But what she has done, that she has refused him. And this is where his trauma or his agony starts. Am I right?
Yeah. And he's also, of all of them, aside from
Yes.
Joselito, of course, right? Who's a child,
Yes.
he's the most like an immigrant, right? Even
Yes.
though his mindset, right,
Yes.
is the one that's most like an immigrant, right? Like he's looking at setting up roots in Vancouver, right? He's looking at, okay,
Yes.
let's create a life here, right? He wants to bring her
He's the
to
first one
Vancouver.
who manages to find a job, and this is so good.
Yeah.
This is so positive.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. So he is the most like an immigrant in terms of his mindset.
Yes.
In because he wants to bring her here. It's not like he's saying, I'm going to find a way to go back to Chile and be with you there, right? He's not saying that to her, right?
Mhm. He's just
saying,
like inviting her to have that experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, and also he's very connected to the children,
Mhm.
to
Yes,
Joselito
because
and Manuelita. Yeah.
he was wearing some kind of mask, especially Manuelita's childhood and Joselito.
Yeah.
He was playing
Yeah.
like a role in their childhood.
Yeah.
Mhm. Very nice. And
Yeah.
again, this character is so important in something that I have told you about, that lack of communication. One of the chicken's presence is so important for another character's being ready to outpour her inner feelings and trying to speak, who is Isabella, who is always muted. And I'm aware of characters who are always muted, and then all of a sudden they try to prove something. So this character, Isabella.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, those two, as you know, end up together, right? And K-Cat and Manuel and Condor Passes end up together.
Yes.
And I think one of the other, what is my point? One of the other themes of the play is love, right?
Yes.
Love.
Mhm.
And not just romantic love, right? But I mean, basically what these 4 characters come to understand.
Love is the power.
In their 1 week, in their 1 week at the refugee hotel, what these 4 young characters come to understand, because they're completely alone in this new country, completely alone, is that they need to get together in order to survive. They need to get together in order to survive, right? And he made her speak, and so first of all, they all accept that she's mute. Nobody tries to pressure her. They're all just like, great, you're mute, we accept you exactly how you are,
right?
Which is the beautiful thing, right? Nobody's like trying to analyze her or trying to force her to speak, right? And so then of course eventually she speaks on her own time when there's no pressure to speak, so of course there's a lot of symbolism there as well, like she's learning to find her voice again.
Yes.
And she's one of, I mean, I think she's the only character in the play that we never hear what happened to her in Chile, right? We never hear what happened to her or how she ended up in Canada. We have no idea what the hell her backstory is. And I really wanted, and to me that was really important, to have a character who we can only imagine, right? And our imagination can take us anywhere. It's either so horrific, like that it's beyond our imagination, or maybe nothing happened to her and she just witnessed something so awful, or maybe she never even witnessed anything. It's just that the entire situation of the coup, you know, made her lose her voice. We don't know. And it was important to me to have a character
Yes.
whose story we don't know, whose backstory we don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so important and interesting. And this can answer just what you have just said. This can answer or respond to the main theme, one of the most important themes, that's the power of love to heal.
Yeah.
And this gives a balance that while there is agony and sufferings, and there is love, which is the answer.
Yeah.
And there is that kind of sharing things. You are sharing your history, you are sharing the land, you are sharing the all the pain that you have been through. So after all, try to accept all of these things and try to come up and to eliminate all these barriers. And the very, let's say, in a nutshell, that character who is Bill O'Neill, who is Canadian and who is trying to give them a hand and trying to speak Spanish. We see that in the play, his broken sentences of English grammatically, or just like interrupted sentences, stands for his Spanish language, who is that he is not able to master. And this is, let's say, illuminates the readiness of people in a new country, in a new land, of a different color especially, who are ready to welcome you anytime and who are ready to just accept you just the way you are.
Yeah.
Represented by that character, Bill O'Neill.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm aware that we're going to be cut off soon.
Yes.
And, you know, so I guess sure we can decide when we meet next. But yeah, he also just stands for solidarity, you know.
Yes.
That's what, you know, he's standing there, he's a symbol of solidarity.
Yes.
And the solidarity is also a political solidarity, right? He's a leftist in Canada, right? He's a Canadian leftist. He's a left-wing person. He's a socialist. So he's also there, you know, because he is one of them politically. Right. You know, yeah.
If we put that in comparison with the social worker and the receptionist, how do you see the attitudes of this receptionist?
Well, the receptionist is not receptive to them at all. Yeah, what finally gets him, what finally cracks him open is the song, right?
Right.
So like, it's a visceral thing that has to reach him. Like the song is so visceral, and him witnessing their reaction to that song and how it moves them, all of those things together, finally everything comes together for him to crack open his heart. And I just want to say a thing about the three Canadian characters, Bill O'Neill, the receptionist, and the social worker.
Yes.
They are all outsiders as well in Canada, right? The receptionist is a gay man. You know, the social worker is the daughter of Hungarian refugees. And Bill O'Neill is also an outsider because he's a leftist and a hippie. And I know we're going to get cut off, but but it was great. It was great talking to you, and we'll make another appointment.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope that
we were just thinking that his being a receptionist is some kind of irony to his name. He is not that really receptionist. And we will be cut off. I am not let's say, I will be asking you about some people who are you influenced in, just like this one. I don't know if you can.
Yes, I know.
This will be the starting point of our next meeting.
Okay.
See you.
Likewise. Bye.